In this video we're going to show you what to do once your driver digicards have been downloaded. Now first of all we'll take a quick trip to the manual tab here. Now there might be times when you need to kind of backfill your driver card. Now you can do this officially through the tachograph, which is the best way of doing it, but we give you an option here where you can put in manual overrides and updates. And for instance, let's just assume that the driver has withdrawn his card on work and we really want that to be rest. So what you can do, you can go in here and create a dummy wax chart if you like. So you select the driver and then you can add an activity. Say let's say it was the 25th of the 5th, sorry, 22nd of May 2018, and he got out of his vehicle at 1800 hours, so we put that in there, and that was rest. Click and rest it, and then you just save that file down here. So what that means is that from even though it's showing on the driver card at say 1755 as work, and this will be carried forward through to his next shift, we can actually put in here a manual update of rest. And there are other ways of putting in manual updates, and one of those is through a CSV file. Now this is really useful if your drivers are working to a timetable outside of the EU driver's hours, in which case you can use a CSV file to update those or to enter those particular activities. And you can find more details in the Pitstop user guide. Now once we've downloaded the driver's data, we want to have a look at what we've got. And so here we have the driver in questions, good old Joe Bloggs. Various information up here, the card issuing authority, when his digicard expires, which was some time ago, so let's hope he's not driving illegally and he has got a new card somewhere. His license number and various other bits and pieces of information. You can also put in these fields, for instance the date when his license expires, and also the license photo, and this will appear on any reminders that come up. And so in the reminder program, or if you're running a report about reminders, if it's due, if the license or the photo is due, then that will be flagged up as a reminder. Same for the DQC, CPC training, and let's see now. Oh, another useful field here is his email address. So if we're creating a report for a single driver and his email address is supplied, then that email will be sent off to him with the report. But that's only if this email field is completed, of course, and during the reporting process only that particular driver is chosen. Now this table here, this is a calendar with daily events, and any day in red means that there's been some form of driving. Any day with green means there's been a full 24 hours of rest. If there are any infringements, they will appear here in the infringements column. So if we scroll back, we have one here, G infringement and a K infringement. So if we look at infringements, a G infringement is insufficient daily rest taken, minimum 9 hours reduced required, or rest period missing. And a K infringement, this is quite a rarity actually, but it's just an incorrect weekly rest pattern. No two consecutive fixed weeks are allowed to have just the 24 hours of rest. We can bypass that for the time being. So if we keep going back, and we see here he's got an A infringement, which if we look at here, it's exceeded 4.5 hours driving in one session without a break. So what we can do now, if we select that, we get this trace along the bottom. It's not particularly clear, but it just gives you a rough idea of what he's been up to during that particular day. Now if we want to see in graphical form what he's been up to, a more detailed view, we can select this report or this graph here, the D04 driver detailed activity graph. So if we click that and we move, as you know, you may have noticed we've now moved on to the view graph page. We can see that he put his card into this vehicle here, and infringement occurred here. So if we want to sort of drill in on that particular area, and you notice that it then now gives the durations of the individual activities, and at this point here, 1851, he had an infringement, driving without card. And as you can see, he's just been delayed his second part of his break by a few minutes, which in this particular case caused the infringement. If you want to return to the original graph, just hold down the left mouse button, drag, and that will take you back to here. Just return now to the drivers tab. If you wish to actually see the breakdown in report form of the activities which took place on that day, double click here, and again you can see that we've now gone on to the reports, the view report tab, and we can scroll through here, and there it is, the A infringement. So from here we would now need, because he has had a few infringements, we would need to create an infringement report, a driver's letter, which we'll come on to in a second. Just want to show you a couple of things while still on this screen. If you click this button, it will take you on to, it's like a management planner really. It's telling you how many hours are available in the current shift, the next shift, and how many hours of driving available in the fixed fortnight and the fixed week. And if we click again, it gives you a more sort of graphical view of that, of the details there. Now obviously this is only as up to date as the last download, so if you want to sort of, you know, do the management of his remaining hours, then you need to have your to do a pretty recent download of his DigiCard. And if you click again, that takes you back to the calendar. Now if we move on to the reports and graphs tab, as mentioned, we want to, because he's infringed, we need to give him a driver's letter. So that's a D30 infringement letter. So we choose that and we select the date, which was the 1st of October, or we'll start the report from the 1st of October, and I think that was 2016. Yeah, 2016. And we'll select a period of 4 weeks. Now, what we can do is create, and this is the recommended way, is to create a PDF report, which is a much nicer layout, and the formatting is much better. But for demonstration purposes, we create an inline report using this icon here. Click that, and as you can see, on the Wednesday the 5th of October, we had that A infringement. The daily rest was missed, and on the 18th we had the exceeding 4.5 hours driving in one session without a break. And we look there, and you notice if we just scroll down here, 2 copies of this are needed, one for yourselves and one for the driver, and both are countersigned. So there, that completes your legal requirements as regards when a driver infringes. And you can use the D03 report, which we looked at, this one here, or the graph, just to see why that infringement took place. And we can make a note here. So if we click on that cell there, now this particular reason, just possibly it might be because he was delayed in a traffic jam on M25, and this will actually come out on the infringement letter. So if we just save that. Now if we go and run that report again, so D30, 1st of October 2016, 4 weeks. And there we are. That note comes out on the infringement letter, so that's a really useful way of describing the reasons for the infringement and revealing it on the driver infringement letter. Let's bring it back up again. Another column to look at is this one here, leave. So for instance, on this day here, he may have been on holiday for half a day. Now it's important that when he is on holiday that you enter this, because it has implications with the working time directive. And so we would enter the reason for the leave. Yeah, I mean, we've got various ones here. It could be maternity, paternity leave, or holiday. But in terms of the working time directive, it really doesn't matter too much, as it's all for whatever the reason that the leave was taken, it's all calculated in the same way. It's more or less to tell you why he was away on that day. So, and we click Save Updates again, and that will be resolved in the working time directive reports. So I think that just about covers everything as regards to drivers. We can just go on to the Reports and Graphs tab, and as you see, any driver report will begin with the letter D, and there's quite a plethora there of reports you can have. The driver shift summary is very useful, and so is the driver activity. The detailed activity we've just covered before. Another way of getting to it is to double click on a particular day. And that will just give you 1 day's worth. Here you can select a whole range of days to have a driver detailed activity report. Speeding events, vehicles used by that driver over a particular period, advisory weekly compensation. This is if reduced weekly rests have been taken, then they have to be made up at a later stage within 3 weeks, and this will give you an advisory on when what hours can be used to do that. Driver shifts infringements letter, fine, 423 driver summary. Another one that the DVSA have often asked for is the summary of the infringements for a particular driver, and the number of digital days he's actually worked. So again, we've already got our parameters set there, the date and the period. So we click that, and here he is. So he's committed over the period, the 1st of October 2016, for 4 weeks. He's committed 1A infringement and 1G infringement. So as I say, that's a report that the DVSA can sometimes ask for. And that just about covers what we need to do for drivers. Just to recap then, after downloading the driver's digicard, bring him up on the screen here, and the first thing to look for is any letters in the infringements column, which will indicate obviously if an infringement has taken place. You can find out what those infringement letters mean, but you'll grow to love these, know these by heart over time. Here is a brief summary, and then in the user guide you'll get a more detailed written description of what they're all up to. So that covers what we need to do for drivers. In the next video we'll be looking at vehicles.